I've been training for nearly 20 years now, and professionally, and I can kind of remember this kind of turnaround where stress became this real thing that we needed to avoid. When the dog showed us stress signals, we needed to avoid this. And at that point, there was this kind of merging between mild behavior cases and dog training. And there became this kind of real line drawn in the sand between trainers that would say the dog is stressed, but I'm going to train them, and the ones that would say the dog is stressed and therefore he won't learn properly and I'm not going to train him. Now, of course, it's a gradient like all these things, and actually the skill in the job is to be able to say, I can see this dog is stressed, but I can still train him, or I can see this dog is too stressed for me to train, and that's the skill. But there was this the threshold for that has been pushed over the years, and suddenly if a dog is stressed, we have to give them the choice as to whether or not they train or not. Otherwise, you're not a positive trainer. And there became this real pushback, particularly on videos that were posted online, whereby, you know, someone would post a video of themselves training a dog online, and then they'd have a absolute dialogue of people saying it licked its 1.37 seconds, it licked its lips and gave a whale eye. And then at 4.7 seconds, it pushed its ears back. And then at 7.9 seconds, it flagged its tail and moved backwards. And the stress became completely misrepresented as this thing that needed to be avoided, rather than, you know, really when it comes to dog training, as far as I'm concerned, it's about recovery. So it's about whether or not the dog will recover and how quickly the dog will recover. And, you know, you have certain dogs that recover very quickly, very well. You have certain dogs that don't recover very quickly and very well. And in those two examples, the dog that recovers well, you could push through lots of stress. The dog that doesn't recover well, you wouldn't put through stress, even though they would show you the same stress levels. But with that dog, you'd say, no, we're going to push through it. And that dog would say, no, you wouldn't. You don't get all those you don't get all that context in videos, but people became very quick to judge that. And I think that really spiraled. It was the time when Gushy Stewart released the backwork stuff, because there was this sudden Lily Chin, who's an illustrator. She became very fashionable. All of that happened at the time. You suddenly got these charts of dog stress responses. All of this kind of all happened at the same time. And everyone suddenly jumped on this thing of like, stress is bad. We need to avoid stress. The dog needs distance. We need to move away. We shouldn't be training dogs when they're stressed. And I think the positive community then took this spiral. They threw a lot of babies out with bathwaters, and they suddenly started to go, if the dog is in any way highly emotional, we shouldn't be training it. And I think as a result of that, then came the real extremists who believed that, who would then criticize everybody else if they posted videos of that. And that's where it all kind of became a wash. And then I think at the same time, the university industry, the dog behaviourist as a thing suddenly really grew, particularly in the UK. And as a result of that change in industry, we had a change of education system. And, you know, when I was starting out, you had Southampton, Lincoln had just started producing courses, but you had Southampton mainly in Hull that did the master's programmes. And that was it. And then Edinburgh suddenly kicked up, and then Lincoln suddenly kicked up, and then a whole bunch of other universities suddenly kicked up these programmes. And so then the academic side of animal behaviour just boomed. And then suddenly everyone was like, you have to have a degree, you have to have your university in order to call yourself a behaviourist. Everybody has to do that. So that I think then that contributed, because then people were spending the 3 or 4 years that they would have spent in industry were being spent in lecture halls. And then they were coming out with more education, but a lot less practical experience. And that drove the wedge further, I think, between those people who were saying, this is why this is happening. This dog is stressed. I can see this, I can see this, I can see this, but couldn't really do anything to change that behavior, didn't really know the mechanics, didn't have the experience to do it. And those that said, I don't know all of that stuff about, you know, neuroplasticity and the amygdala and all that, but I can change this dog's behavior by doing this, that, and the other. And I think that competitively, those things started to compete against one another rather than learn with each other and learn from each other. And as a result of that wedge, you have the people over here who are probably feeling defensive and insecure that they don't have the knowledge and the experience that these guys have. And therefore they come down very hard on, this is why I can't do it. This is why I can't do it. This is why I can't do it. And you have the people over here who are kind of like proving to those people, we might not have your university degree, but look, I can sure as hell train a dog. And they're doing the other thing and they're going, I can do it, I can do it, I can do it.
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? And I suppose there's a lot of parallels in that with how I personally think people run their businesses and they run their lives. So the things that were kind of running through my head when you were speaking then was, okay, those stress signals. And I know controversially, but I also know that you do actually, I think you agree with me on this as well. So I'm raising my 2 boys who are 2 and 4 the same way I look at dog training, because I understand the behavior behind it. And I'm really looking at it and I'm going, oh, okay, yes, you have just shown me a stress signal whilst building your Lego. But does that mean we should stop building your Lego? No, but it's applying all of this stuff. And I see it certainly from a business point of view, where it's almost as if somebody doesn't know what to do, or if they feel a little bit stressed by it, they stop. And I wonder if, and I don't even know if you would know this, but as you've said, you know, you're choosing to spend a bit more time in, and I hate this split of communities, but you are choosing to spend more time in this balanced area.
But I'm not really choosing, I'm just doing a sport where I don't have a choice.
Well, Okay, so you're hanging out with those people more. Do you, from your opinion then, do you see a difference in how they run their business versus the other side?
Yeah, and I don't think that I think they graft a lot harder for a lot less money. If I'm honest, I think they do a lot more work, they see a lot more dogs, and they do it for a lot less.
Yeah,
and that's what that'd be the main difference. But I would say they do it a lot less, probably a lot less formally, like the formal business side of things, in terms of, like, if I was to make a guess, again, I'm going to be slated for this, but if I was to make a guess, I would probably guess that a lot less of the balance guys are paying proper taxes, have got limited companies, are doing it like this, and a lot more of the positive guys are doing it by the book, you know, doing the business stuff by the book as it has to be done in this country. But these guys are putting in a hell of a lot less hours actually training dogs.
Yeah. And this might sound controversial as well, but that's what we're here about.
That's what we're here for.
Do you think the balance guys then are almost having to go against that judgment, and that's kind of where that drive comes from?
Yeah.
And also, do you think that they put themselves in, you know, this whole, because a lot of what we're going to sort of cover and talk about and kind of push is that dog trainers are very led, or dog professionals, very led by what others do and the offerings of what others do, and they feel like they can't do any more than that or anything different from that. Do you feel like the balance community are more like advocates for what the owners need, what the dogs need, and they will just do what's according to that? Or do they feel the pressure of offering what others offer as well?
I think it's the same. I just think it's slightly different cultures. I think it's the same. I think dog training, if I'm honest, dog training, I think, is incredibly, business-wise, it's incredibly dated. It's incredibly dated. I think the way that it's presented, the way that it's done, all of it is so dated. It's like going back to an office in the 90s a lot of the time. I'm surprised we're not dealing with history forms by fax.
Fax machines. I was just about to say that,
But and I think that the whole of the industry needs a shake-up when it comes to this sort of thing. The whole of the industry does. Yeah. I do think that, yes, I think both are led by these standard protocols. I think these guys are led much more by, like, the positive type trainer are generally led a lot more by the protocols that have been stipulated by things like the ABTC, and like you know, and those things have all been fed down over time, because you have highly qualified professionals who are generally, again, I'll get slated, but it's true, generally not very good at training dogs, but who are highly qualified and very academic, who argue a great point on Facebook why you shouldn't do X, Y, and Z, and why you should only train a crate like this, and you should only do this by this. And people are like, oh, I respect him because he's Dr. So-and-so, and now I feel like an idiot and I should only do it that way. And there's a lot of fear in the positive community, a lot of fear, right? I think in the balance community, you have you have kind of a different pressure, and that you have the pressure of time, because there is the use of aversives in there. I think that generally speaking, guys who are much further on this side tend to be a lot more pushed by time. So I need to be able to get this done quickly, because this is the type of trainers that we are, is that we fix quickly.
Yeah.
And therefore, I think that a lot of their protocols are designed as in a way that has to solve a problem as quickly as possible, and therefore there are sort of traditional ways of doing things that they nearly all do as a result. And again, the offering is the same. So how can you offer, if you've got Jim down the road who's offering one-to-ones at 40 quid, I need to be offering my one-to-ones at 40 quid, because how can I compare to him? And if a one-to-one is an hour, then a one-to-one is an hour. If a class is an hour, then a class is an hour. If I do a residential package, which is $2,000 for a month, then a residential package is $2,000 for the month. Like, and I can't, people, in terms of pricing, in terms of the time structure, in terms of all that stuff, nobody in either camp really thinks outside of the box. No. Not very many people do. There are I can think of exceptions to that rule, but generally not very many people will think outside of the box. They are massively guided by what others are doing around them, and by this weird industry social pressure to follow suit, to follow the herd.